Hello and welcome to Let's Talk Cloud ERP. This special edition podcast is brought to you in partnership with the Let's Talk Data podcast. I am your host, Jennifer Frank McGrory. We have a great conversation planned for everyone. Today I'm going to speak with Laura Lambeseder, SAP S4HANA Program Leader from AdvanSix. Laura and I have worked together on a few other programs, and I'm looking forward to having her share what AdvanSix is experiencing with their Rise with SAP journey and what's to come. We don't have a lot of time, so let's get rolling. Hi, Laura. Welcome to the pod.
Hi, Jennifer. Thanks for having me.
How's everything?
It's going really well.
For a Monday, right?
Yeah.
Excellent. Can you talk about a little bit about AdvanSix and a little bit about your role with the company?
Yeah, of course. So AdvanSix, we are a fully integrated chemical manufacturing company. We have a portfolio of products that include plant nutrients, chemical intermediates, and nylon solutions. We're completely US based. We have 5 manufacturing plants along the East Coast in Pennsylvania, Virginia, and Alabama. I've been with AdvanSix for almost 6 years. Currently, my role, as you mentioned, is the S4HANA Program Manager and Technical Implementation Leader. So I'm responsible for the overall implementation of S4HANA, as well as some other initiatives that we are doing in parallel as part of an overall business process transformation effort.
Awesome. And could you summarize the business challenges that led to this large-scale transformation? One of the first times we had worked together, you were in the throes of a small implementation with was it Ways and Means?
US and Means, yeah.
US and Means, that's correct. Can you talk a little bit about that, and then the mission and how, where does AdvanSix come from?
Yeah. So, AdvanSix, we're really we call it a relentless mission to do better every day. And we want to transform and to be better so we can better serve our customers and create more innovative products that really help the world. So we spun off from Honeywell maybe about 8 years ago. And with that, we brought a lot of, very complicated technical landscapes, very complicated processes. And we, in the last 2 years, have really been undergoing a very transformative journey, right? Really trying to understand, who we are and who we want to be. We went through a whole rebranding. Again, really are challenging ourselves to grow and to be different and to do things differently and better. It's probably about 2020, maybe 2021. We did make the decision. We knew we wanted to move to S4HANA. We just didn't really know where to start. We did a lot of research. We worked with SAP. We did a customer value assessment, right, where we looked at our processes, looked at our ECC, and looked at where S4 could be valuable for us. And we also started to undergo an assessment with an SI that we had selected. And at the same time, we acquired a small manufacturing company, US and Means, based in Alabama and Virginia. And we decided that it was a great opportunity for us to just pilot S4HANA with them, right? They were on very manual processes. They were using QuickBooks. There's about maybe at most 50 employees. And we had, about a year to get them onto our systems and into our control environment. So it made total sense for us, right? Versus putting them on our old custom ECC and then eventually moving them over to S4HANA anyway. And it was a great opportunity for us to learn. So we, small pilot, I think about 55 best practices, finance, procurement, demand to supply. We didn't do anything under maintenance with them at the time. And ultimately, it was a very quick pilot.
It was very aggressive, I feel like. I remember it was an aggressive timeline.
It was. So, there was a lot of factors involved. At the time, like I mentioned, we knew we were going with S4HANA, but we weren't sure if we were going to be going with Rise or not. So we
Mhm.
ended up making the decision to go with Rise. And that just took a little time for us. It was a different product, a different licensing model. It took us a little time to negotiate it. So from the time that we had our Rise environment stood up, which was October, and then we went live with US Amines at February in
Mhm.
2023.
Right, right. Okay.
I mean, we had obviously before we had a Rise environment, we had done a fair amount of work on understanding the requirements and the processes.
Sure.
And we our SI now called Reply.
Yes.
We were working in their environment, right? They had a Rise environment that we were working in to do our fit to standard sessions. But we didn't start configuring until October. But it was a great opportunity for us. Not only did we successfully go live in a very short timeline, right, with no interruption to the business, but we learned so much about S/4HANA, right? I mean, you can only do so much research until you get your hands on it to really see how it works, how it's different, how people interact with it, and what it's capable of. So, there's a couple of areas where we had a theory that we could replace some custom functionality with standard
Right.
S/4HANA. And it was a great opportunity for us to really try that out and prove that to our organization as a whole. After we went live, our original plan was just to go straight into the enterprise implementation, but I'm really glad we did not. We practiced the power of pause. We really reflected on our lessons learned, and we took, a couple of months to do a couple of things as an organization to make sure that we were really prepared to transform as an organization when we move to S4, next year.
That's awesome. So while you're practicing this power of pausing, what were some of the biggest strategy pieces that maybe you adjusted as you prepared to go into the next phase, which was obviously a much larger transformation?
It was a few things. One, and I think the most important thing was that it really shifted from an IT project to a business-led project. We took part of what took some time for us was we realized we needed a dedicated team that was doing only this, and we needed the right individuals who were really going to challenge the status quo and challenge the organization to change. So we took the time to identify the right leaders, and we created what was called the Business Process Transformation Team, which is led by my peer, Michael Kaplan, and he reports directly into the CEO. So we took people out of their day jobs and had to backfill them. And we have, a work stream leader for each of the functions. So order to cash and finance and procurement and demand to supply and maintain to settle. And at the same time, which was a little easier, we also dedicated an IT team for the implementation, which was myself, and I have a project manager and an enterprise architect leader and a few functionally aligned leads. So that was one. And the
Mhm.
second was we engaged with Boston Consulting Group to come in
Right.
and
Okay. Yeah.
do a business process transformation assessment, right? They used a lot of data points to look at our processes, both systematic and just, interviews, understanding pain points, brought in some industry best practices, and worked with us to map out a North Star, is what we call it, right? What is our North Star vision? Where do we want to be? And they mapped it out by what capabilities do we need to enable. And it's not just technology, right? It's process, policy, people, and then technology. And for us, for the technology, we looked at, what is standard S4, what is maybe standard SAP environment, and maybe what might lie outside of SAP native capabilities. And then for all these areas, both people, process, we put together a value-based roadmap. So for the next, started earlier this year through next year, both technology, both process, people, how do we start to realize value? What are things we can do now to enable us, and then through 2025, put together this roadmap. So, started some really good process initiatives, like
Yeah.
particularly in procurement, right? Cleaning
Hmm.
up, standardizing, how we do requisitions. We had one of the process maps they pulled for us showed that we had over 8,000 ways of completing a requisition, right? Which is insane.
But I'm sure anyone listening to this podcast when it is released will be like, "Yep, I feel that."
Right.
I'm sure you're not alone.
And out of 1,100 SAP users, 250 of them are able to do requisitions. So we narrowed that down to 50 people who can do requisitions and train them really well, right? And then also put in place like metrics. How do we track this? How do we make sure that the change is sustainable? I mean, that's just one small example. So, part of that, obviously, a big piece of that is moving to S4 and what capabilities we can expect S4 to meet for us, as well as some other technical initiatives. So we are implementing open text for our invoice automation. We're implementing, this was something that BCG helped us with too. We're implementing Ariba Business Network.
Okay.
We had a theory that we needed like a full end-to-end procurement suite, like the full Ariba, but just based on our volume, there was not a business case there for us, right? But we're able to actually get a lot of value out of just doing Ariba Business Network and streamlining how we interact with our suppliers. So we're implementing that in parallel with S4. So we are now in the middle of our implementation and targeting to go live in April of 2025.
Excellent. So getting back to the dedicated team or business process transformation team and then your IT team and then the business, how do you all, and then let's just go there. How do you all work together? Like what's the engagement model?
I would say this is probably like one of the most challenging parts of my job of like, we've got maybe at least just 10 people dedicated, as well as, subject matter experts, change champions, people engaged throughout the organization, and how do we keep everybody like on the same page, working towards the same goal, but also like without micromanaging each of them.
Sure, right.
Because they're all leaders of the organization, right? So the way we've been working, we have a weekly meeting together internally. So, we obviously put together a very detailed project plan. We have multiple work streams, right? So we have, the functional leads, but then we also have data and data migration as a work stream, reporting and analytics, integrations is a work stream, controls and security is another work stream, because that's very important to us. So we have a detailed project plan, and the way we've been working is that, we basically show like a 6 to 12 week outlook of like key activities, key milestones across all the work streams that need to be accomplished. And we talk about, how they should be accomplished and what the outcome is. I mean, we're very focused on what the outcome is. And then each work stream leader can, manage their own teams as they see fit to get the work done, right? And to manage their own workload. So it's really just about making sure we're all aligned on the key outcomes, the key milestones that are coming up. There's no surprises. And then everybody can kind of go off and do what they need to do.
That's a lot of moving pieces, and what a dynamic team to put forward, because now you are in the midst of this larger implementation. Can you talk a little bit about that?
So we actually just closed out on Friday, our first test cycle. So we have,
okay. Congratulations.
Thank you. We have 3 epics that in our schedule. So we had our first epic was, I want to say 3 months long. And then the month of September was a round of integration testing, which, is really meant to be some not as strenuous testing, but we ended up approaching it as a pretty thorough test execution, which frankly was good. We had about 60 people in the organization testing. We had, over 500 test scripts. And honestly, in the first 2 weeks, we got through about 90% of our testing, and then spent the second 2 weeks just working through defects. And like I said, on Friday, we closed out the first test cycle. A small handful of low and medium defects remained open. And then today we're starting our second epic, which is really going to consist of a lot of integration work. Because for us, a few of the integrations were just much more complicated. I think we've got about 40 integrations, and then specifically around our logistics integration. So we have, we work with rail, we work with ocean, we work with trucks. Again, we're really trying to leverage some standard S4 capability here. And our interfaces, particularly in the logistics space, they were, I think, implemented like 20 years ago. They were very custom. They were using flat files. So there's a big opportunity for us to really improve how we work with those. So we've actually in the last couple of maybe 2 months spent a lot of time not even trying to figure out what was done and why it was done, but just thinking about like, what should this look like? So spend some time really thinking about the outcome of the business that we need to drive before we can start to actually build anything. So the second epic is going to be focused a lot on those integrations. And then we're going to start UAT in mid-November. And I think really the focus at this point, and I don't want to jinx myself, right? But things have been going fairly well as far as just, the build and testing. So now the focus is really on change management, right? How are we going to train our organization to use this new tool, to use the new processes, and make sure the change is realized? What do we need to do and put in place to sustain this after we go live?
Right.
And those are my, sort of where we're focusing our efforts now to think about that before it's too late.
So speaking of organizational change management, how, whether it be through your first implementation or post go live with Ways and Means, or what's going on with the Honeywell implementation, how is it going with organizational change management, and what are the things that you feel are working, and where can you potentially look to improve as you continue down this journey to modernize your platform?
I think one of the learnings from our US Means implementation, we were very cognizant of the change management for this group of employees. I mean, they were going through a ton of change, right? They'd recently been acquired by us. They were changing a lot of their processes. Now we're implementing this new technology for them. So, I mean, we were very cognizant. We spent a lot of time training them. We had people on site for a couple of weeks after we went live. And that piece was all great. Where we fell short was sustaining the process, right? And really, I think we had talked about this before, making sure that the sustainability is in the process and the role and not the people. So we had people leave, we had people change jobs, and that process, that knowledge left with them.
Yeah.
And, we'd find that they were doing things, and, all of a sudden it seemed like the system was broken, and it wasn't broken. It just, something was not getting done that needed to get done. Right. So I have this vision, and we'll see if we get there. But for me, we have our HR system, and everybody has a role, and I want that role assigned to, a role in S4, right? A set of capabilities, a set of activities they're going to be doing in S4. And that not only ties to a security role that they're going to get, but it also ties to training that they're going to get.
Right.
And when that person leaves that role and changes, then their access changes and the training changes, and they get new training that goes with what they're responsible for doing. And it's, again, the process is tied to the role, and that's the only way we're going to be able to sustain that after we go live.
Right. Let's switch gears a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about the whole component of the lots of moving pieces that I mentioned a minute ago. So when you're transforming, there's a lot of moving pieces, as you just explained, with the whole teams that are working to get this transformation rolling. Can we talk a little bit about, clean core and the crucial elements to success for that, and the whole clean core mindset that you have at AdvanSix?
I think for us, we came from again, our ERP was about 25 years old, and it was customized for a business that we are no longer. I think everyone has started to feel the pain of having a very custom ERP system. It's just very challenging for us to frankly do anything.
Is there a lot of discussion when you're looking to make these changes, like why change and why can't we stay the same? Is it a lot of that change management pieces that you're running into?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think everyone has sort of, a lot of the organization has bought into we don't want to customize, right? It's out of the
Sure.
box makes so much more sense, right? It's easier for us to do new things, right? I mean, one of our strategies is to grow inorganically and acquire companies, and it's very painful to acquire a company, on an old custom ERP and bring them in. It's expensive, right? Anytime we touch anything, even a report or a process, and you don't have the person that developed that there, something breaks. And they feel the pain. And, in theory, obviously agree with the clean core and the customization. In reality, it's always a little bit different, but our approach really has always been, why not standard? Why not even S4, right? We have a lot of custom programs that sit on top of ECC that we've actually, we're able to get rid of some of them and move to some standard S4 capabilities, which is great. And I found this is my new favorite tool in the SAP. For me, there's a clean core dashboard that
Yes, there
shows
is. Mm-hmm.
the percent from standard that you are, which is great. And we looked at the ECC. I want to say our ECC was actually, it's only 26%, which that was better than I had thought. But as of now, our S4 is at like 0.1%, which is amazing.
Okay.
And I plan on, keeping it as low as possible. But, in some cases, we do have to, and I won't use the word customize, but you have to do something
Absolutely.
to meet the business needs, right? So, we are using I have too many B acronyms, BTP. Thank you. BTP, where anything is, needed. Even from an integration standpoint, right? We are moving away from our custom integrations. I think in this case, we're actually moving from over 90% custom integrations to 90% standard integration.
Congratulations. That's amazing.
I saw that number and I was thrilled. And of course, again, in some cases, you need to have a custom integration.
Something that would makes it unique to your business. Absolutely.
Correct. But, it's really, the team has been great, right, at challenging everybody and saying, what is the outcome we're driving with this? Why can't we meet it with the standard? And then, it just requires that thought process. That's all. We're just so used to, I want this report to be purple and in this order. And then somebody will say, okay, and go build it, not thinking about what the long-term maintenance is of that.
Correct. And then when you talk about an aging system, like you have a 25-year-old system, how many people were in and out of that job where they wanted that report to be purple, and then that person leaves, and then that report essentially dies on the vine, but it's still there. And it still needs to be cared and fed.
I just, I had a call because we had an influx of tickets for our managed services team. And I was trying to understand, what the root cause was. And we had some new people come into a department, and, the conversation was, well, we are supposed to deliver this report to this team, and we don't know what the report is or why it was built. And so we called our managed services department to explain what this report was. And it was kind of like, well, we should know what reports we're delivering or like what information is being handed over. But just these small pockets, and that, multiply that by 1,500 people, and there's
25, and add 25 years to that, and you've got a lot of stuff, a lot of
debt, just technical debt,
debt,
waste of time.
I was going to say debt. I was going to say a lot of dead reports that probably
that too.
That's a lot of dead things, but technical debt, right? And so I love that you have the leadership's support in driving to that clean core, so that you will be changing that technical debt and converting it into technical wealth, with being able to in the future upgrade or add functionality with little to no interruption, and being really able to be agile. And I think that's the name of the game. And you're well on your way, and you have a lot of great experience coming through the ranks, right? So you've got, that with that longevity of being an SAP customer, you have all that history there, which is great, but it also can, as you mentioned, create a lot of technical debt. So good job, good work on that. Good work on that. But can we take a second and talk about your partner Reply and the relationship you have with them and the three-legged stool kind of you have. You have SAP, you have Reply, and yourself. So how has that relationship worked and to get you to where you are today? Support you to where you are today, I should say.
Well, so I'll say Reply has been a fantastic partner for us. It's a different model that I'm used to working with when you think of implementers, but we selected them really because they have so much. I mean, the bulk of their experience is in manufacturing and specifically chemical manufacturing. And again, they're US based, their resources are local. For us, having people on site working together just goes, really far for building teams, being able to, I mean, their consultants are fantastic. They want to come on site. They want to see the plants. They want to see how we're manufacturing. They want to see what people are doing. And you can't improve the process if you can't walk the process. They've got these consultants that are just really great and with SAP and specifically S4 knowledge. So you're right. I mean, we almost have like a two in the box with our functional lead, and each functional lead at AdvanSix has like one or two Reply counterparts depending on their area. Like we have, one for demand to supply, and then we also have another one for quality management. And, we have one specifically for group reporting and finance and one for our project systems. And that it's that one consultant that really does everything from the fit to standard sessions to the functional design. And then we have, some technical counterparts. And they're also, I think, a great SAP partner. So, and SAP's been a great partner for us as well through this journey. I mean, we were, I think, one of the earlier adopters of RISE. SAP can be challenging to navigate. It's just like any organization, right? It's a big organization, and but I would say the RISE resources have been fantastic. And they'll join our meetings when, we have challenges as far as solutioning things or looking at other products. They bring in the right resources. They've been instrumental in helping us get set up with, we've been using ALM for managing our project. I should have mentioned that when we talked about, program management. We're tracking everything in ALM.
That's great.
With, tasks and requirements and everything. And that's been incredibly helpful. They've been helping us get set up with Signavio, and we have training questions. They help us with the resources. So it's just been honestly a great experience. And it's funny, but like whenever I have a question, I go to my SAP rep. And they've been great.
And they say, all right, hold on, let me figure that part out.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, it's been great to speak with you, and it takes significant investment to initiate and carry out any cloud transformation. What advice would you give to a customer or a prospect that is getting ready to venture or to jump on this journey to cloud ERP, so that they can maximize their investments?
I would say really make sure you have your leadership buy-in, and buy-in to transform, right? I mean, change has to come from the top. Otherwise, it's just going to be another ERP implementation. And that's okay too, because, in some cases you might get some technical savings from maybe merging multiple systems or whatever. But if it's really going to be a transformation project, you need to have leadership support. And, we spent a good year putting together a business case and working towards getting, this is, one of our number one initiatives as an organization. And then the second is make sure you have the right team and make sure you have people who are going to challenge the status quo. And I mean, there's a few times where I put my hand up and I said, we need to stop. Like, we don't have the right resources. We don't have the right people in the room. And we're going to fail. We're going to fail. And I mean, it's too much money. It's too important to just blindly keep going.
Jam it in, right?
Yeah.
Understood. Great. All right. Well, Laura, as always, it's such a pleasure to work with you and to speak with you. I could ask you 100 more questions. So maybe we'll have to have you back in another year or so to check in and see how things are going.
Yeah, it's great talking to you too, Jennifer. I am going to be in Houston at the ASA conference in 2 weeks.
Okay, cool. I'm not making that trip, but we
No?
will. I'll have to hear about it. We'll have to hear about it when you get back.
Okay.
All right, cool. Thanks so much, Laura. We'll talk soon.
Thank you, Jennifer. Have a great day.
Thank you for joining us for this edition of Let's Talk Cloud ERP. If you enjoyed this conversation and want to continue in a smaller, more interactive session, I would like to invite you to sign up for a value exploration workshop. This 2.5-hour interactive call to action session curated for both IT and business leaders will enable you to interact directly with SAP S/4HANA through our SAP S/4HANA ERP simulation game. The simulation game will demonstrate how you can have greater control of your business processes by having members of your team from across business functions such as finance, sales, marketing, and procurement work together to showcase the true power of SAP S/4HANA. The really cool thing about this game is you get the chance to compete and show your team's full profitability potential against other teams. Check out the show notes to learn more about the Value Exploration Workshop and upcoming dates. Finally, I would like to thank the Let's Talk Data podcast for their partnership. We couldn't do what we do without them. Until next time, I am Jennifer Frank McGrory. Have a great rest of your day.